Beautifulpeople.com made the news last week. I don't know if you saw that article or not. You know, when I think of beautiful people, I think about some of the people that we honored tonight. I think about sweet Mary Walker and my good friend Red McCaskill. Hope it sure is good to see you tonight. She and Donald being very dear friends and beautiful people. But apparently there are others in the world that have a different idea as to what beautiful people are. Because the website beautifulpeople.com, a Denmark-based company, has set up a website based on outward looks. And basically it goes like this. You submit a picture, it's a dating service, so you submit your picture to the website, and everyone that belongs to that community, they vote on whether or not you ought to be one of the beautiful people that can post there. And so what ended up happening was there was a cyber attack upon their website that affected the screening software. It was the Shrek virus, as it is known. And all of a sudden, 30,000 people now belong to beautifulpeople.com. The problem is they've not gone through the screening. And so over the course of the next few weeks, 30,000 people are deemed to be too ugly to be a part of that dating community, and so they are removed. And the funniest thing about it to me is just simply this. They set up a counseling hotline in case you were dealing with rejection. You know, how do things like that happen? I mean, where do people come up with things that are so crazy and so silly and so stupid when we understand that beauty is only skin deep? You know, there's something that counselors talk about. It's called egocentrism. It's when we just kind of get so into ourselves, we lose perspective about reality. It's kind of what happens to us when we walk in front of the bleachers at a ball game. And everyone's here, and we're standing here, and we feel like everybody that's there is personally focused on us. You ever felt that before? Sometimes we really get into ourselves, don't we? Pat Riley has written a book called The Winner Within. He describes in that book something called the disease of me. And he says what happens is a player develops an overpowering belief in his own importance. His actions virtually shout the claim, I am the one. And he says symptoms of the disease are chronic feelings of underappreciation. Maybe you have some of those guys on your team. Personal effort mustered solely to outshine a teammate. Feelings of frustration even when the team performs successfully. And Pat Riley goes on to say that the disease of me always leads to the same result, the defeat of us. You see, in life, it's very easy to get so self-absorbed in our looks and our talents and the things that God has blessed us with, that we can truly come to believe that in some way we are the center of God's universe. Now, if you will, open up your Bibles to Ecclesiastes chapter 2. We've been studying that this week, and I think what you're going to see is, for a long period of time in Solomon's life, he suffered from the disease of me. I mean, he was one of the beautiful people in the world. He was the wealthiest man in the world. People marvel at his riches today. The Queen of Sheba said the half has not been told when she went to visit with him. And people would look at him and they would say, man, that guy has got it. He's got wealth and women and wisdom and wine and all of these things in his life that makes him one of the most beautiful people that you could ever imagine. But you don't look very far in chapter 2 to realize that Solomon's got a problem. And as you read through that chapter, the word I, me, or my shows up at least 20 times there. Solomon is consumed with self. The problem is he's not getting any fulfillment from what he's consumed with. And so he begins in verse 1 and he says, I thought in my heart, I said to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure and find out what is good. I think it's kind of interesting that Solomon kicks off this journey of self-discovery by talking to himself. He doesn't seek out a counselor, doesn't talk to his granddad, He doesn't call one of the elders down at the church. He just kind of reasons all this stuff within his heart. And he says, I spoke to myself. And he says, well, I'm going to find out what the meaning of life is. And he puts himself squarely at the center. And it says in verse 2, he looks for the meaning of life in laughter. He said, laughter is foolish. And what does pleasure accomplish? He says, I guess what I'll do is I'll just kind of laugh it up for a while. I can almost see him looking for the best stand-up comic to come stand in his court and perform for him and make him laugh. I know some people that would tell you that laughter is not always good medicine. Because I know some guys that just laugh all the time. They laugh at everything. Some of you young ladies know guys like that, and it gets on your nerves a little bit because everything's just kind of a joke to them, and it's funny. And what they don't understand sometimes is, most of the time, it's just kind of a mask. And when the conversation gets too serious, you just kind of change the subject real quick, and you just laugh about something else because you don't want anybody connecting with you too deeply because it's too painful. So Solomon says, well, I'll just laugh it up. And he said, well, I did that, and I found that was pretty meaningless. And then he said, well, I'll try cheering myself with wine. And in verse 3, he does that, and it says he embraced folly. I mean, that's what you do. I'll just live it up. And he says, I'm just going to enjoy myself with intoxicating drink. And he embraced folly because that's what you do when you go down that path. You embrace a destructive lifestyle. You make really dumb decisions. You do something in your right mind you never would do. You jump off a cliff head first. And then sometimes you pay the price for that from that point on. He says, I think I'll do that. In the year 2000, Illinois scientist William Walsh, he studied some strands of hair from the great composer Beethoven to try to understand scientifically what it is that brought about his death. And in that study, he found out that in Beethoven's body, there was 100 times more lead in his body than would be in the body of a normal human being. What he found out was this. Beethoven died at the age of 57, and so he would go to these mineral baths to try to relax himself and to get away, but the very thing that he was drawn to for his relaxation was the thing that was poisoning him to death, and he didn't know it. Solomon's going down that path, and it's bringing about his own destruction, and it's not giving him any meaning. Well, as you read on, you're going to find out when you jump to the 12th verse that Solomon's just going down one road after another, chasing this rabbit to find meaning, and chasing that one. And finally he says in verse 12, well then, I turned my thoughts to consider wisdom. I think I'll go down that road and see that if knowledge and wisdom and what I can learn will bring about such understanding that life will be truly meaningful to me. He says in verse 13, I saw that wisdom is better than folly, just as light is better than darkness. I mean, the wise man has eyes in his head, while the fool walks in darkness. It's the person that says, education is the answer to meaning for me. I mean, if I can just get a good education and start on this path to getting a degree, then somehow with my knowledge I'll have meaning and fulfillment in what I do, and it's going to really be a blessing to me. He says, wisdom's got more benefit than just being a fool. But notice verse 15. He said, but then I thought in my heart, the fate of the fool will overtake me also. What then do I gain by being wise? I said, in my heart, this too is meaningless. Here's the college student, and you've worked hard for 4 years, and you've graduated with honors, and you get out of school, and you can't find a job. And you say, man, what have I done these 4 years? I mean, have I wasted 4 years of my life? I thought I had it together. I thought I was on a good path. But folks, sometimes you can plan and plan and plan, and life just doesn't work out exactly like you planned it to. I talked to a young mother the other day, and she was having some struggles with her infant.